What's up, Gloomers? Rage Badger Gaming here, and we're going to talk about Frosthaven Update 102, specifically addressing the future of the Frosthaven Helper app, the MSRP, and then also alternative ways to play Frosthaven in the future and possibly why you shouldn't hold out for those. So let's first address the MSRP. I knew there was going to be a jump between what people were expecting. That wasn't a big surprise to me. 250 is a pretty big deal, but coming from someone who's played Kingdom of Death and Warhammer and Age of Sigmar and all that stuff, I've already dumped more into a game, but I can see why some people would be incredibly hesitant, and this makes the game inaccessible for certain groups as a result, and that's unfortunate. Between that, the way increased number of components, he's already addressed it in there, including, 10 more pounds of stuff. It doesn't surprise me that it's so much higher. So, I think, honestly, the people who are hesitant saying, like, that's just not worth it for me, and you have to make that call for yourself, so I get it. But at the same time, I can't say it isn't worth the experience, because I felt like for $400, we got everything we wanted out of Kingdom Death. And I feel like $250, we're going to get more out of it than we got from that. So comparatively, between that, Warhammer, and some of the other expensive hobbies, certainly this will have more play hours than some of the other comparative games. But that said, the barrier of entry is definitely going to be a problem, especially for some. And the increased cost of shipping worldwide is going to be a huge problem, but that's something that's going to generally be eaten by Cephalofair, and it's reflected in the MSRP going forward. Now, some people are thinking, you know what? I'm going to hold off and just play Frosthaven Digital when they inevitably do that. Or they're going to say, like, you know what, let's wait for Tabletop Simulator. First off, the Frosthaven playtester mod requires an incredible amount of manual work, and automating all of Frosthaven and the way we have in the current Gloomhaven Tabletop Simulator mod is going to take a significant amount of effort, something that I'm not even going to expect anytime in 2023. So if you want to do that, I'm expecting probably not until 2024 or later. And for Gloomhaven Digital, or Frosthaven Digital now, the classes have way more mechanics in Frosthaven, including some of the locked classes. I'm not going to address them, but Gloomhaven Digital, I'm talking to Asmodee Digital and Flaming Fowl, a lot of what held them back was some finicky mechanics. Now, if that's what caused the delay of Gloomhaven Digital, which took quite a while, it was in early access for such a long time. If those finicky classes is the reason for some of the delays, and as well as finicky scenarios. I know they're talking about there's certain scenarios that were just very difficult. If those were the problems, Frosthaven means we're not going to see that anytime soon. I know they have a bigger team now, and they have a lot more knowledge into maybe dealing with these situations, but I don't think this is something you should count on. As a matter of fact, we have no confirmation of Frosthaven Digital even being a thing. So even if they do announce it, it's going to be a while before even they get to that stage where we even had Gloomhaven Digital, let alone a full release. Now, before we go into talking about what about the Jaws DLC? Outside of a few scenarios, just a few of them, the Jaws scenarios are incredibly easy to implement and have a lot of basic ones in there. And the Jaws classes, outside of one, are incredibly easy to implement and would have been one of the easiest ones to add to Gloomhaven in the first place. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with, you're going to probably have to make the decision on where you want to weigh in. And some people have ultimately said, hey, if I don't have a helper app, I'm not going to play, especially with the news that Frosthaven Helper isn't going to be done. That doesn't mean we're not going to have an app. Isaac said, hey, I want us to have an app on release. But also, if you haven't taken a look at it, there's something that I just caught on Reddit, just in the past week, I think, called Gloomhaven Full Stack. And the developer for that actually says that he intends fully to have a Frosthaven full stack. It looks like he's reached out to Isaac and asked, hey, can you take a look at my app? But there's been several developers saying, hey, look at it. So they don't have a chance to go through everything at the moment, but they do intend to release the assets hopefully soon so that people can possibly develop something for it. Now, obviously, we're not going to get something like all the scenarios and whatnot, but maybe we can see the future of an app. So if you were saying, hey, I can't play Gloomhaven without Gloomhaven Helper. If there's no Frosthaven Helper equivalent, I'm out. don't worry, there's going to be something delivered. And I actually am really interested in this Gloomhaven full stack. It looks incredibly promising, and I'd like to see some of the other options, given that Isaac's been bombarded with other developers saying, hey, we can step in for esoteric. It looks like he's going to have some options. Outside of that, this seems to be most of the news for Frosthaven. I do think that the increased components is absolutely warranted. There's so much more to it. I think that people are expecting another Gloomhaven experience, and like some people were like, oh man, it took us a year to complete. From the amount of hours that we put into testing, from guessing how long scenarios take and so on and so forth, our team took about a year to complete it, and we anticipate from some of the campaign things probably closer to a year and a half. So whatever it took you to complete Gloomhaven, just add another 50%, and maybe that's another rough estimate for what you can expect of Frosthaven. So it's a lot more. It is a lot more. So don't think that you're just paying more for the same game. You're not. There's a lot packed into this, and it's super fun. Last but not least, and certainly not least, thank you to all our patrons to continue to support the channel. You guys are amazing, and thanks all of you for watching.